Kimberly is great.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, Caregiving Cafe is very happy to welcome Kimberly Gutierrez from Senior Living Pros to make a presentation about senior living choices, and along the way, help us to learn what to look for so that we do our best to choose the right home for our loved ones. And one day we may be looking for that new home ourselves. All right.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, Lynn, for that introduction. And Dura, thank you very much for initially introducing me to this group. I think it's a fantastic group for so many reasons and for so many different folks, whether you're a caregiver, whether you work to help caregivers, all of those things. And so, you know, I'm honored to be here this morning, and I appreciate the invitation very much. Nice meeting the rest of you, and hopefully you will take away some information that might be helpful to you now or in the future, or someone that you know. And so without further ado, Paige is one of our senior advisors. We have 6 in the Houston area. We have one that is in the Austin, San Antonio area. We are currently recruiting and very close to making another hire in the San Antonio area. And Q1 of 2023 is coming right up. We will be hiring an entire team in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we're working on that as well. But in the meantime, we can certainly make placements and work with families all throughout Texas. As a matter of fact, we've made placements as far as Chicago. You know, so whether that be if you know someone or hear of anyone that might need our assistance, we really can make placements anywhere. But part of our model that's made us so successful and different from the rest out there is we really do a lot of hand holding. We're kind of a 3-legged stool, if you will. We work very closely with case managers and social workers at hospitals and skilled nursing facilities, and they will refer families that are dealing with a loved one that really is needing a higher level of care, and they will you know, refer that family to us, and then we'll get in touch with the family and let them know. First, find out a little bit about what's going on with them and what type of services their loved one is requiring and needing, amenities, location, budget, all of those go into us making the correct options, the appropriate options for them. And sometimes that's not senior housing just yet. They may need some home care. They may need home health. They may need hospice. And the beautiful thing about all of us working together is, you know, we can help one another. We all have a great network and a folder of resources. And I tell all of my senior advisors, you know what, that's for you to decide. I'm not going to tell you who you must use, because everyone has different experiences. And depending on where they're located and you know what their experiences are in the past, it's up to them to build that reference sheet and referral folder. But I certainly pass on names and companies that I come across that do a really great job. So we're all able to refer to one another. And the main goal here is to help families, whatever that looks like. And, you know, oftentimes I will say, you know, you're not quite ready for our services. Or more times than not, they wish they would have found us a little bit earlier. Because, you know, we, like I say, you know, we're able to walk them through. As challenging as most situations are, they're not unique to us. And it seems like every single day we're getting a new bizarre set of circumstances where, you know, we need to all pull in and help one another. And it's a beautiful thing with our company. We're all on this thread all day long. I've got a family member that needs a hospital bed. or that is moving here and they need home health and they can't find anyone to take their insurance. So we all help one another and we combine our resources. But what I'm here to talk to you all about today, and what Paige is here to talk to you as well, is about making the right choice and what we look for and how we're able to help families get them into senior living. And when I say senior living, that covers independent living communities, assisted living communities, which is our number one. That's probably 85% of the placements we make are with assisted living communities, and memory care communities as well, and also personal care homes. And we'll talk a little bit about the differences between those. Independent living it's a community where they offer meals, they offer light housekeeping, they offer socialization to families, but they don't do a lot of clinical needs as far as medication management, helping if they're needing helping with dressing, bathing, things like that. That's really out of their scope. That's more of an assisted living. And assisted living is anywhere from just simply med management. There's still several people that drive in assisted living. Lots of wonderful socialization going on with assisted living. But when I say med management, I'd say that's probably the number one reason that folks come into assisted living. They're able to, quote unquote, typically age in place there, where the services may, they may require more services as they age, especially if they come in with a diagnosis of early onset dementia, things like that. We all know that that's progressive. And so they may need some simple reminders and med management to begin with. It may look a whole lot different a couple of years down the line, where they may need some assistance with bathing, dressing, toileting, things like that, to where, if they're not a danger to themselves and they're not needing a whole lot of clinical, typically they can certainly age in place there. And that makes it nice. It's their home, it's their apartment, it's their community. We also work with personal care homes. A lot of times we will work with families that will have a budget that is just really not possible in some of the larger communities, because it takes a lot more to run those communities, staffing and all of those things. And so oftentimes we can find an alternative with a personal care home. And there are several wonderful ones out there that I think are better than several communities. So the beautiful thing about the services that we offer, first of all of us come from the background pretty much. My background is with large management companies as a regional director of sales. And so, and Dura knows this because we've worked together in the past. And, that's where we've developed our relationship. And she was fantastic at what she did, and she's still fantastic at what she does. But, it gave me more of a keen eye as to the good qualities that are out there, what we look for. I can walk into a community because I did, first impressions everywhere. And I also trained our sales directors to make sure that you have the eye of a family member when you're walking into a community. But I can walk around pretty quickly and realize what some wonderful things are that stand out that would be very helpful and appropriate for most families. I can also point out some challenges that community might have. I can sniff them out real quickly. And so, those are things that you just don't read about in a blog or the website of these communities while you are looking for assisted living. So, I always kind of correlate that to how many of us are parents out there by show of hands? How many of you would place your child in a daycare based on internet reviews? without walking into the daycare, looking at the other children. Are they clean? Are they happy? Are they healthy? Does it smell good in here? You know, all those things. Why would it be any different for placing your parent or a loved one? It truly is, you know, that's what really sets us apart. So yes, there are companies out there like A Place for Mom, which certainly serve their purpose. I'm not here to bash a company, but I will tell you, it's very difficult to make a decision off of a list. Very, very difficult. And, you know, as I said, I've got several years of experience in communities, and in my experience, I have been over several dozens, probably in the neighborhood of 100 or more in Texas and other states. And when my mother needed a higher level of care, it was the hardest decision I've ever made. And that's with all of the contacts that I have out there, which I have a ton at the corporate level, at the community level, at the director level. I've got a ton. I've been in most communities in the areas. I mean, I've walked through, countless. Sometimes I don't even know I've walked through until I'm halfway through the tour. I'm like, I've been here before, for something or other. But I was at a loss when I had to make the decision for my mother, my precious mother, because how do I know I'm making the right decision? And I would have loved to have worked with someone like one of our senior advisors that's in the communities every single day. They know the staffing. And I got to tell you, when staffing turns over, and most of you can attest to this that have been in the community world, if an executive director turns over at the top and you get one in that's complacent, everything goes to pot. I mean, it trickles from the top down. If your management company is sold and they use another company and they're not hands-on, and they, everything goes to pot. So what was once a wonderful community may be absolutely terrible, and I will not refer to them until some serious changes are made. What used to be a terrible community, I don't write them off the list. We will continue to keep tabs. And if things change, and I've seen it all several times. One of my favorite communities that we placed probably 6 or 7 in a month was just god awful a year ago. And now it's a fabulous place, and I feel great about it. And a new executive director is there, and she brought over an entire team. Things look different, so while I was preparing for this, I came across some interesting information I'd like to share with you all. And this may be news to some of you. Some of it was to me. Texas is one of the youngest states with the average age of 34.9 years old. Had no idea. Only 30% of our population in Texas is over the age of 50. We've got a pretty young state. It costs an average of $3,500 a month for assisted living in Texas. I think that number's kind of low, on average, but I guess that depends on all the different areas. But those are some facts. What are the 2 main reasons that families rely on placement services? I would say time is number 1. Most who are looking for senior living options have suffered an event, notice memory deficiency, a fall, etc. They're often overwhelmed and do not have the time to properly vet all of their options. And if anyone has a question or a comment, I would love for this to be interactive. So please feel free to stop me at any time. And the second is expertise. With all of the options out there, why would you not call on a pro to help guide you through the process, especially when our services are free? They are of no cost to you. So when I say our services are free, it doesn't mean that they're free of charge. They're of no cost to the family, because I want to be completely transparent with that. When we make a placement, the placement fee is $3,000 to the community. we're very deliberate in our fee. That's a low fee in the industry, but we're very deliberate so that we want families to know it's not first month's rent, because most placement companies out there are first month's rent, which is, typically a higher amount, especially when you're in memory care, you're looking at a much higher rate. The reason we do this is we want families to know that we are out for their best interest. It makes no difference whatsoever to us whether we place someone at $3,000 a month or $11,000 a month. None at all. We are out for their best interest. We want to make sure that we make the appropriate placement for that loved one. And I think that's the reason that we are seeing so much movement from case managers and hospitals and social workers. They like working with us because they know we're an extension of their good service to their patient. They know that when they refer someone to us, that we are going to work within their budget. We're not going to place them somewhere that's not appropriate. We're very proud of our 5-star reviews. Paige, I don't know what that number is up to, but I think it's probably pushing 30.
31 as of this morning.
So, and they're all 5-star, excellent reviews. These are loved ones and families that have felt moved to go on and I tell all my senior advisors when they're having a rough day, if you forget why you're doing what you're doing, because we all have rough days, go back and look at our Google reviews. Go back and look at it'll remind you, because one after the other says, I don't know what I would have done without you. Most everyone that I work with, and my senior advisors can attest to this because I'm kind of behind the scenes now, but I'm very much involved. I'm just not in the communities as much. But they've been moved to tears. And Paige, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you at this point, because Paige is our boots on the ground. She is the one working with the families, and she's also in the communities. I thought it would be a good idea to invite her to give kind of her her perspective on this. And if you have any questions for her, because she is the one that works directly with families. I do as well, but I'm more of an operations, and they're boots on the ground and working with the families. And I thought that she might be able to provide and offer, a whole different view. So without further ado, Paige, if that's okay, unless anyone has any questions for me, and I'll kind of wrap it up after Paige, but.
I do have a question, actually a few, but perhaps Paige can answer these or add them to, or maybe this is what she's going to talk about. I would like to know what kind of care is available in a personal care home, number one, and how do you know, what are some clues that it's time to move from one level to another in senior living?
Great questions.
And also, I'd like to know what to look for when you enter any community. What are the eyes? What should we be looking for? Because we may or may not miss some things. I mean, you can smell urine. This is the typical, they smell bad. Okay, but what should we be looking for?
And so Paige, I'm gonna let you talk about that. As far as what you're looking for, I'm gonna say that's why you really want to use a service like ours, because I could talk all day long about what you need to look for and what are red flags and what are wonderful things that you do see. But I highly recommend, and like I said, had I used a service like mine, I wouldn't have moved my mother 3 times in the last 18 months.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, and I get it. I don't, that's why I invite professionals to come educate us, but I am a very hands-on family caregiver. So I also want to be educated as to
You bet.
what I should be looking at. What do I need to know to help me feel better about making a better decision? And I know it's not by myself. It is with the help of the professionals, resources, which I call angels, to help us through this. But I, as a family caregiver, want to also understand.
Mhm. Yeah, and these are really great questions. Paige, I'm gonna let you kind of take the floor. And if I have anything to add when you're finished, then I'll come back around. But really, really great questions, Lynn, and we hope to do our best to cover all these thoroughly.
I'm sure you will. Thank you.
Go ahead, Paige.
Well, I thank you for having me today. It's an honor to be here and be an extension of Assisted Living Pros. I think that, Kimberly, all of your points were spot on. I do have a little bit more to add, but I will start by answering those questions that you had. Your first question was what activities or what all is involved in a personal care home. Is that correct?
Yes, what kind of care can they handle?
So that is going to depend, a top question is always, is it licensed? Because that is going to determine what they can and cannot handle in-house and what they have to delegate out and outsource with other vendors such as home health and hospice and all of that. But typically, a personal care home can handle actually more than an assisted living can and deal with some more challenging situations due to the sheer fact that they are low volume and they have less overhead. So, when you go to an assisted living and you have one caregiver to 10 residents, and then you go to a personal care home and you have one caregiver to 4, it's a game changer when you're needing that constant care, when you're needing feeding assist, when you are a full 2-person transfer, when you have a peg tube. Those are just a couple of scenarios that I have personally dealt with that I have found that attention to detail and care has just been, I would say, stands out more in the personal care homes. Now, that doesn't mean every personal care home is like that. That's why, we really have to do our proper discovery and our proper vetting. One thing that we make sure to do is I would never refer or recommend a home that we have not personally toured, because, you can hear that you do A, B, C, and D and show up, and it doesn't quite look as it did on the internet or it did in an email, but as far as acuity wise, personal care homes are the ones I have worked with recently. They take all the way to final stages. And it's a very dignified way to transition as well. That's one of our key things that we focus on is dignity, right? Our loved ones have served such a purpose in life and they deserve this dignity, and if they can't speak on their own behalf, it's our job to do that and make sure they're getting that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful.
They'll also do activities in there. So you're going to still be getting a personal care home. You're going to be getting an all-inclusive rate. So you're not going to be getting a level of care charge based on your acuity typically. And that rate is going to include your 3 meals a day, your medication management, your dressing, showering, incontinence, all of that assistance. The only thing that you typically provide in a personal care home is going to be your toiletries and your personal belonging, your clothes. If you do have those incontinence products, a lot of the times you do have to provide those if you are not on services that provide them for you, like hospice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we really use our other vendors to help make this placement a full circle for everyone.
And the personal care homes, is there a limit, or are they generally a certain number of residents that live there?
So the state decides that with their licensing. They'll come in and see how many bedrooms there are, how big the house is, and then they will license it for 4, for 6, just depending on the size. For instance, I have one in Tomball I just placed at. and it is a 13-room home, and they are licensed for 18.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I think the second question was, what makes you decide to change your level of placement? Was that asking what makes the decision to go from independent living to assisted, to change tiers, or
Yes.
is that what you were
Yes.
referring to?
Yes. Yeah. Like there are some senior living communities out there that have various levels. And so how do you know when it's time to move to a higher level of care? To go from independent to assisted, let's say, what are the clues that we as family members and family caregivers need to be aware of?
So that is a wonderful question. I have to be very careful about how I answer that, because in an assisted living, that is going to be a clinical decision. So that is going to be a nurse's assessment on if they think we need to move up to the next level of care. However, if you're in an independent living and your mom, husband, whoever the loved one may be, can no longer independently act on their own without clinical needs coming in, then that is when you must transition. So there are still vendors, home health, that can come in, but you do have to get yourself around your apartment and around the community independently.
So is mobility impairments or getting lost, but let's say you are just not able to walk around, maybe you're weaker or something, not necessarily because of dementia, that getting lost is a separate thing, but would that be necessarily something that might make you start thinking, it's harder to get around? Should I be expecting needing to move, let's say, from independent to assisted living?
Those are great. It's never too early to start planning, right? Like we all say, failure to plan is a plan to fail. However, there's different answers to that, because if it is just a short-term thing, then we can have home health come in and continue physical therapy. A lot of the times there are on-site therapy, physical therapy in the communities. There's always going to be sit and be fit exercises and activities that encourage them to gain more strength. But yes, if it's no longer a short-term thing and ambulating is becoming a concern, I would recommend starting to look into assisted living, because they're not there. They're there to be concierge, and if you need them, but they're not there to assist you every 2 hours like they are in an assisted living.
Okay.
They're not required to do 2-hour checks and things like that as they would in an assisted living.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I do have a little, unless you have any other questions that I missed, I do have a little PowerPoint I would like to show you guys, if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
All right, let me pull it up. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, let me make it. I know. Alrighty, so what are the two main reasons that families rely on placement services? Number one is going to be time. Most who are looking for senior living options have suffered an event, noted memory deficiency, fall, etc. They're often overwhelmed and do not have the time that it takes to properly vet all of their options. B is going to be expertise. With all of the options out there, why would you not call on a pro to help guide you through the process, especially when our services are free? These might be things that Kimberly has already touched on. I apologize if we are double tagging it, but I had already prepared this. So just discard if you've already heard it. But yes, time is, sometimes you'll get into a skilled nursing and you haven't even thought about alternative options or placement. You're just getting through the day, right? You're trying to get mom stronger, you're trying to get your loved one stronger. And then all of a sudden the social worker comes to you and says, hey, you're going to be receiving a discharge and you have 72 hours. Oftentimes it's 48 hours. Well, that can be a really overwhelming um, in short time frame to find appropriate placement. A lot of people can spend 1 to 2 months looking if they're doing it on their own. For us, we love that. Well, we don't love it, but we accept the challenge, and we already have our list of options. We know what A, B, and C community can accept, their strong points, their challenges, their budget, and we can also get that price down with negotiating the best rate, just due to the sheer volume that we feed into the communities. B, our expertise. Like I mentioned a second ago, we are out in the field every single day, in and out of these communities. On an average day, I go into 6 communities. So there's really not a question if you're speaking on the territory I am in every day that I cannot answer, amenity wise, aesthetically wise, service wise, even how the food tastes. We make sure to check everything out whenever we are in there. How can a placement service help in my line of work? A, very few professionals have the time to periodically tour all the communities in their area, much less keep up with their availability, specials, and services. B, people want choices. C, it's an extension of your care and service. I think that people want choices is huge, but that doesn't mean that they want 50, right? They want maybe 2 or 3 qualified ones, and we are able to get those qualifications in our initial discovery. With our pros and our expertise, we can ask the questions that make a difference to you, that match what exactly you're looking for, versus going on Google and printing out a list of 15 communities when maybe 9 of those they're not even qualified. They don't offer memory care, or the budget's too high, or the location is out of the distance you were looking for. So those are all things that we make sure that we cover initially. How does Assisted Living Pros differ from other companies? We know what's important to communities, and we also know firsthand what is important to families. We are local. We are not too big that we don't meet with our other clients, and we're not too small where we can't place clients all over Texas. I think that's huge. Like Kimberly said earlier, it's hard to do it over the computer. It makes it very challenging to know um, the strengths and the weaknesses and the shortcomings, and when you're not in the communities, when you're just doing it off of a search. We don't use a shotgun approach. So, like I said a second ago, we want options, but I'm not going to send you 15 communities and we're going to line them up and look at all of them. We meet with our clients directly. That is another thing that really separates us and makes us personal to the families. We will, whether we're meeting at the hospital, the skilled nursing, where the incident took place, at home, we make sure to put aside time and go meet directly and find out your needs versus calling over the phone. We also accompany them on their tours. I know that we have a lot of families that are very involved, and we love that. It is, there's so many families that don't. So it's amazing when we do find that. But oftentimes there's still simple questions that a family member wouldn't know to ask. If someone says a community is all inclusive, well, that's great, but they didn't know that mom was incontinent and you're having to provide those supplies. So indeed, it's not, all inclusive when it comes to that. those are just questions that we point out and things that we notice right away. And we can bring it to the family's attention so that we have managed expectations as well. They're not they're not coming in and thinking they're getting the world, and really that's not what's going to be provided. So we just make sure that everyone is on the same page and they know what exactly is they're going to be getting. We negotiate the best rate for them. As I said before, with just the sheer volume we feed in, we can often get really great discounts and incentives. I can tell you I am placing right now, and the community said, you know what, Paige, you have done 6 move-ins in my community in the last 2 months. For all of August, it's $46. Okay, well, that's a huge incentive to a family that is putting down a $1,500 community fee, that's moving, mom out of the house, that has a lot of charges in the transition. That's a huge break for families.
Can I jump in there really quickly?
Absolutely.
Really great point, Paige. And when we get benefits because of the volume that we do, those go directly to our clients. And so that's the beautiful thing about working with our company is, the more we are out there and the move-ins that we are producing every month, the more benefits that we are seeing. And we truly are. I mean, I'm talking big companies like Brookdale, that are really coming to the table with some excellent specials for our clients because of the volume that we are providing them. And it's a beautiful thing because we pass it directly on to our families. And so, it's that's a huge benefit. We all talk about features all day long. Benefit is what's in it for them. And that's a big one. So go ahead, Paige. Thanks.
Can I ask a burning
Absolutely.
question? I'm sorry to interrupt.
You bet.
Go
Is that
ahead.
okay? So I know we spoke about initially in our introduction caring for my parents, but previously we went through this caring for my older sister who had a stroke. And of course, I'm sitting here going, I wish we had known about you guys then. But even more than that, I'm wondering what level, if any, of support do you give to families once the loved one is placed and then problems start happening? Because we moved my sister many, many times, had lots of problems. And yes, I agree that if we'd had access to you, maybe we would have made less mistakes on our placements. But I also know that from experience now that no matter how good it is initially, problems occur. And just wondering, if it's not you that supports, is there anybody else that helps advocate for the families once the loved one is in there? Because having to fight those big corporations like the one you just mentioned is really tough.
Can I jump in real quick and then let you answer that question? But that's why it's very important, if there's an appropriate diagnosis, to always have another party that is advocating on behalf of a family that can continue with you after the placement occurs. So once you are in the right location, you've received the help from assisted living pros, then you're still going to need somebody who can advocate on your behalf and on your loved one's behalf. That is where, whether it's a home health agency because you're not quite hospice appropriate, or a hospice company, really comes in handy, and that you want to have them on board of the care team, because the facilities and communities can only do so much. And right now, especially, we're finding that everybody is short-staffed. And so what that means to the family, to the patient, or the person that's living there, is that these people are trying to juggle everybody. And it isn't for lack of caring, but it is for really and truly, they just don't have the time to do all that is expected of them. And that's why, like hospice, we come in, we've had patients in a different skilled nursing facility where they just stop feeding them. And they're like, well, they're dying anyways. No, that's not the
Oh
case.
my God.
Yeah. And so our CNAs actually go and sit there, and we'll make sure they're being fed, and they'll get them food. They also advocate, and to the point of sometimes where the nurses get upset with us at the facilities because we're advocating so hardly on behalf of our families and our patients. And they're like, well, we're the ones taking care of them here. You may be, but we're the ones advocating for them. So that was a long answer. I apologize, but I'm a true believer in, at all phases, you need somebody there for you, especially if you're not familiar with the healthcare industry, because it is forever changing. Sorry, there you go.
Thank you so much, Dura.
You're welcome.
And, just to piggyback on that, we definitely are in touch with, we follow up with families and, see how everything's going. And I'm not going to lie to you, there are times where something's changed or something has just not gone well. And a lot of times they can get in touch with us and we can mitigate that somewhat. But, we have also made other placements in the future where it, and a lot of times the level of care has changed and they didn't go in with the same, and then the rate went up, and, we've just, but they've called on us again, and, we're there to when, to ring the bell, so to speak. But, as far as things happening, and as you know too, and what Dura just touched on, there's just really no guarantees. We can make the best possible, give the best possible options based on all the information that we have, and and introduce them and have the community, because we've had communities call us too and say, whoa, this client is, just threw a chair in the activities room or whatever. And, that's, we just can't make guarantees as far as that goes. We make the introductions based on the best knowledge that we have. We have them, do a checklist, and then the community themselves will assess and make sure, we will ask them, are you certain that you can provide the care that you're promising? And so we go through all those things. But Sherry, I get it. I understand. I've moved my mom 3 times. And that just sometimes happens. It's unfortunate. She's at a place now that, knock on wood, it's absolutely amazing. And she is living her best life. And it's so fulfilling for me. And, she's in a beautiful place in her life. For someone.
And I will say, I don't know if
Okay,
Kimberly
okay.
shared with you, but I actually made that placement. So it has worked out really well. We did the touring process. I knew exactly what she was looking for. And Kimberly says she's not been happier. So it's wonderful.
If I may just add one thing, I have not had experience personally with this, but there's also an ombudsman that is there to advocate for the residents. So that's another option. I don't know how effective they are or how quickly they act.
Not quickly at all this time, unfortunately. The period that we're living in right now, it's very, very backed up. And when someone needs an ombudsman, and that's a great idea, Lynn, but usually when someone needs an ombudsman, and we've been in situations where we have said we need an ombudsman here, because to act in this client's best interest, because there's no POA, or things like that. But they're so backed up, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
Dura, I don't know what you've been dealing with in your world with that, but when they need them now.
Yes. Yes. That's why I said I have no experience. I guess it's just an ideal. And
Staffing is just such an enormous challenge right now.
yes.
And again, it's not for lack of caring, truly. Most people that are taking care of seniors, they're not making a gold mine here. Usually you're here because it's where your heart's at. But it is very difficult times right now to be a healthcare provider, but also to be in need of a healthcare provider. You know, you can go in with the best of intentions on both sides and it not work out. So do always be your own advocate first and foremost. If you don't advocate for yourself and your loved one, nobody will advocate for you better than you. But then bring in people that you trust so that they can advocate for you.
Really great advice.
Right, thank you. All right, we'll carry on because a little bit maybe about 5 or 10 minutes, we'll need to move on to sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. So where was I? We walk them through the typical concerns: financial, real estate, clinical, veterans benefits, etc. You know, a lot of times whenever we do our initial conversation, the families, they don't know the funds that are available to them, right? Because they've never been through this. They don't know that a surviving spouse can get up to $1,200 a month through the VA. They don't know that a dependent can get up to $221, I believe it is now, through the VA. So these are all things that we make sure that we ask to save them money and, you know, to make their money last, because everyone's, you know, a lot of the number one concern is outliving our financial means. So whatever we can do to help with that, we absolutely get others involved.
And one other thing to piggyback on that, I don't know if you were going to talk about, you know, the benefits that we use partnering with Elder Life, but also if they have a home or an asset, because oftentimes we will get the call from a social worker or a case manager saying they are being discharged on Tuesday of next week, period. And families believe that they've got that 20 days of 100% and they've got 100 days of 80%. Well, you may be your 30th day into this process and they deem it no longer qualified for reasons, and Paige can go into that a little bit more, but they're going to be discharged. And if they stay, it's on private pay, and that's typically north of $7,000 a month. So the adult children will say, mom's got a house to sell. I mean, and she's a hoarder, because 100% of the time they're a hoarder, it seems like. So we've got to deal with that, and we've got to sell the house and the car and yada, yada, yada. And I work full time and she needs care. We partner with companies when there's an asset, oftentimes that will immediately be able to take over and cover that shortfall. So if we know that they only have $2,000 a month, but they've got a $200,000 asset out there that they're waiting to sell the house, whether that's 8 months from now or whatever, once it's, you know, once they go through the vetting and they do realize that there is an asset out there, that loan can turn around we've seen it happen many times within 48 hours. They can be discharged within 48 hours, and the shortfall, it's basically called a bridge loan, will be covered until that asset is liquidated, I should say. So anyway, Paige, you might be able to just touch on that really quickly. I know that we're running out of time here, but I think it's a really important piece.
Absolutely. I have used this. I've used Elder Life for many placements. You know, the market's going to slow down. Houses aren't going to sell within 2 days anymore. You know, whatever it may be, Elder Life they can step in on even VA. You know, those benefits take 6 to 8 months to start coming in. Well, Elder Life will bridge that gap, and they will fund it within 36 hours. The only qualification is they have to be partnered with the community. So, you know, I know all of the communities that they are partnered with, and I have also had other communities create a partnership and get a contract signed with the community, and simultaneously the bridge loan is being done, and both of them were funded within 36 hours. So
just another little piece of our services. We don't receive a penny of profit from any of these services whatsoever, but we are partnered, and we make it a point to be partnered with folks that can really help our clients. And this is a big one. As a matter of fact, we pay for it. But it's huge for our clients.
absolutely. Next, our advanced database is personally customized and continuously updated at my disposal based on needs, budget, location, and amenities. On top of all of our reps out there updating our database every single day, we have one advisor who is behind the scenes, and this is her sole job. She is continuously updating, changing, correcting information, getting contracts. She's an amazing help for that as well. And most importantly, we're in it for the right reasons. I personally didn't get in this to not sleep at night, and I do everything I can to ensure that we are making appropriate placements, that we are making a difference to those that are in a very, very daunting time. A question that many families have are, when is it time? So these are just some examples of when it may be time to make this transition, whether that be a diagnosis of dementia or any form of Alzheimer's, weight loss, poor diet, forgetting to take medications or confusing them, changes in moods or loss of interest in hobbies or relationships, lack of socializing, trouble in completing familiar tasks, trouble with times, dates, or important appointments, late notices or unopened mail, clutter, unkept home, and laundry piling up. I know that some of these may seem like tedious items, or just, bullet points that, that what does that really mean? Well, confusing medication is an automatic admission into hospital sometimes. That is a risk that most can't afford to take. Weight loss or poor diet, malnutrition, and you can't fight infections, your immune system is down, your falls are going to be more likely. All of these have a much deeper meaning when you look at the big picture and how it can affect a loved one. As we all know, all of us are unique, and dementia is a huge spectrum. It presents itself differently in every case. I tell my friends, family, and clients that if you get the feeling mom or dad is not acting themselves or behaviors have changed, follow your instincts. Right? I mean, we know that we are thinking, when is it time? When is it time? Oftentimes, once these couple things are being noticed, your instincts are going to tell you something needs to be changed. Before we're no longer at the same assessment, or we can't pass assessment and need a higher level of care. A lot of times family members will want to wait. Well, waiting sometimes is not the best thing to do, because the deals are no longer there, the availability can't be there, and they're not at the same point of assessment that they were a month ago. Finally, I like to begin my day with positive and inspirational affirmations. It gets me off to a great start and puts me in a healthy frame of mind. One of my favorite quotes, and one that comes to mind for this particular crowd, is, "Be the reason that someone believes in the goodness of people." So I just like to add that to my last slide. It's a very meaningful quote to me and everyone in the industry or going through tough times in healthcare. So thank you guys for listening to me. I apologize if we double spoke on anything, but does anyone have any questions?
I just want to say that was really great information, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know and until somebody mentions it. And so all the forms of assistance that are out there that most people aren't aware of, when you have somebody who does understand the process of things, they can walk you through that. And so that I think alone is a benefit of having somebody be there for you to help place you, like assisted living pros, because of the awareness of understanding those things. And then too, it's very easy to go into a community setting. And I always tell my families that I work with, don't be distracted by the chandelier effect, because many places can be absolutely beautiful, but the care is not. And many places can be absolutely old and tattered, but they have the same staff that have been there for 18 years who are now old and tattered with it, but they love every bit of who they're taking care of. So it is important to have people that have experience with all the communities, whether it's assisted living, memory care, independent, or skilled nursing, to be able to be there and help walk you through all of that. And if it's staying at home, that's okay too, because there are companies like us, like hospice, home health, doctors like Lynn's husband has, doctors at your door that can also come there. But most people aren't aware of that. And so it unfortunately, Lynn and I've been working on this for a long time. How do we get the information that people need to have out there to take care of themselves and their loved one, no matter where they want to be? And so thank you for what you shared. I thought it was amazing. It was a great presentation.
Yes, thank you very much. And feel free, I will include the Kimberly's and Paige's, well, contact information page if you would.
It's in the chat, I believe, already.
Ready? Okay, Kimberly's is, but I'm not sure if
Okay.
Paige, I didn't see it.
Paige, if you're still on, would you mind going to the bottom of your screen and chatting your information, your contact information?
Absolutely. I will do that right now.
Thank you so much, because I will include your contact information in the follow-up email, which come out in the next few days. And any other information or a leaflet or any in the future, Kimberly and Paige, you want to send anything to us that would benefit family caregivers, we're all ears. So
That's a great idea, Lynn. And if I may, just really quickly, thank you, Paige, so much. She has a bedside evaluation that assessment she has to be at right now in a hospital. And I'm very soon have to hop on another call if it's okay.
Yes.
But didn't know if there was any questions you had for either of us. Anyone?
Well,
if you
after we say goodbye, that's always the case, but
right,
that's
exactly.
your contact information.
All right. And I'm going to stop
Absolutely. Well,
recording
thank
at this
you guys
time.
so much for having me.
All right.